So in this part of the lesson, we are going to be taking this orthographic projection, wherein this is the front and this is the left, in order to create a volume like this one. It applies some of the things that were talked about in the previous video lessons or the previous sections. But again, I need to repeat this. Please be aware that the lines can be confusing, so you might want to do your drawing larger so that you lessen the chance of confusion. So the first thing that I'm going to do, as what we've always done, is to set up that cube. And I want to make sure that the cube more or less matches the proportions of this. So I'm going to make the axonometric cube. If it looks like that, my table is wobbly, and that's because my table is wobbly. So forgive me for that. So there you have your basic cube. And this is going to be the front, and this is going to be the left side. So first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take the front pattern and place it on the front using, again, you can use the grid method for this, or in my case, I'm just going to do a bit of estimation. So this is the center of it. And then I'm just going to establish that height of this part, which is around there. And then do that portion right there. Now, since this is the front view and this is the left view, it looks like that this portion is not really reflected in the front. I mean, I could always put it there, but this looks like it's more towards the back, this part here. So I'm going to extend that middle, and then again I'm going to estimate where that curve goes. And just make a reference line so that I know where the curve hits. And there we have it. Now, the thing here is there is a curve going down here. So we need to establish right here in the middle of the volume where that curve actually goes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to subdivide the left into portions. So since this looks like it's level, then maybe I don't really need to subdivide that further. It's really this portion that I'm concerned with because it's got that slope going down. Maybe I can also subdivide this further just to make sure that I get the curve right. So now I have 4 sections, and this is half, half. So I'm going to X that out. In this case, I'm not going to do a complete X, or maybe I should, I would. So yeah, that's right smack in the center. And then I'm going to slice that in half. So this is half, and I'm now going to divide this again in half. I could X that out if I wanted to, But again, if you are used to this system, you could always do estimations as long as your estimations are correct. So now I'm going to find where those intersections are. So from the back right here, I'm just going to try and find where those intersections are going to be. So assuming that these are it, I'll just line that up. So now I have these intersections right there, so that I'm going to lightly create that curve on the left side and extend the rest right there. So what do you think is going to happen next? Since I now have these vertices on this face, I can now project them towards the middle because they end up there. So it's still projecting the same process, but we're not going to extend it over to this other side. Instead, we're going to extend them towards the middle. So since I already have these lines in place, I'm just going to subdivide this using box slicing and find that center. So again, this can be confusing if you're not used to it, but I hope you'll be able to see that box slice right there in the middle. And then what's going to happen is I have my 3 vertices right here. I'm now going to project them towards the middle. So I have this one right here, go up this face, just go to the middle because that's where you want to go, and then slide it down. Now using a projection over here, that's the intersection. That is essentially this point over there. This second second vertex, go up, slide it, bring it down. So again, it overlaps with the back edge, so try not to be confused. Project that, and then first vertex, second vertex. Here's the third one, up, towards the middle, go down, and we're going to bring that in for the third vertex. So now this line, this center curve, that's going to be here. And then it extends toward this point right there. So it's essentially that. Curves all the way to the front. Now, since we have no indication of what this shape is, we assume that it's going to be straight. However, if there is a top view of this, for instance, I'm just going to do a rough top view. And if it goes straight, then that means this would be straight. However, if it curves, for instance, if it curves this way, then over here at the bottom face, I would grid that out and find that curve. But in this case, I won't. So I'm just going to go straight for that. And now, there you go. for this. Now, for the back, since we don't see this, we're just assuming that it's the same. But normally, for an orthographic drawing, there would be something here, and I would have to place that right there. Now, what happens to this part? Since we have a center going here, what should this part look like? Since there's no indication of what that looks like, I know that this part is solid, and so I'm just going to slide it over down right there. And so the volume that you're going to get looks like this. And now I'm going to erase that. And there you have the volume. So in this part of the lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to take this orthographic projection and we will transform it into this volume. So in this orthographic drawing, you can see that the top is circular, and from the left, right, front, and back, this is what it looks like. So you can imagine that this entire volume is circular in nature. Now, when you see an orthographic drawing and you get these like dashed lines, what that's basically telling you is that this part can't be seen. I mean, from this view, but it gives you an indication of what this shape looks like from the top, because there are limitations in orthographic drawings because you can't exactly see every single detail of a form, and so these dashed lines give you a clue that this portion is actually circular in nature. It's not flat, it's not square, it's no other shape except circular as indicated here. So in order to start this, I am going to, again, let's create that block. And for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to extend this block a little more vertically so that you can see what's going on. So I'm just going to adjust that, maybe, yeah, so that way. And then I'm going to square that off. You can pause this video again if you want, so that you can have the time to actually create that cube. So again, this is going to be the top, and this is going to be the front and the right, and essentially everything just goes around. So this is the front, and again the right side. So what happens? Top part, you can see that the circle covers the entire area of the top. So as what you did in the box with cylinders drill, I'm just going to shortcut this and create that ellipse. And since the bottom part looks pretty much the same as the top, then I'm going to do that as well at the bottom. So I'm just going to do a rough circle here. So let's now tackle the middle part. So here, the curve goes exactly towards the middle, right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice that right there in the middle. And this is the center line going down. And then I'm just going to copy this. So this looks like roughly a little thicker than a third. So if this is 1/3, I'm just going to expand that a bit and do the curve. Of course, you can always do the grid method thing if you want to do a really accurate copy. But for this demo, we assume that this is a good copy. Same thing, I'm going to do this to the other side. Center line across. It's a little thicker than a third. And I'm going to curve that out. So, how now do I make the circle in the middle? Since this is one side, and this is the other side, I now can use these vertices right here, project them towards the middle of the volume so that the resulting square, that's where this circle is going to be. So here, from this vertex, towards the middle, using parallel lines. This one, this vertex, parallel lines, parallel lines. So now I have that square right there in the middle, with which I can put my circle inside. Now, to help me with the curves of this form, I'm now going to rely on the vertices on the edges of each of these shapes. So now for this one, that's where the middle is. I'm just basing it on the middle. Center here, cross. Center here, cross that. And this one is in the middle of this. So we cross that, center, and we have our 4 points right there. So now what I can do is from this center, connect it to that center, connect it to this center. So this is just to define the form. This is not going to be in the final outline of the figure. Center towards the bottom. And I could always do for this corner as well. So the corner of that is around there. Corner of this is around there. This is just to define that curvature. Of course, when it comes to this part, I have the edge right here, this point over there, and I can just curve that towards down, curve that down. So now just gonna solidify that. Now you might be wondering, why did I need to identify these curves in right here on the surface of the volume? Now, you don't really have to, but it would be nice, well actually it would be great, if you know how to do this. Because there might be a situation, for instance, wherein you need to attach something to this volume. So you have these lines that can help guide you on how to attach them. So for instance, just as an example, if I wanted to say, like add a door here, for example, this is a weird house. So because I know that this is a slant right here, this curve, I could use this curve now to establish the door of that house because this is a slant. Right there. Or if I wanted to add a chimney to this volume, I have this reference line right here. I could do a circle following that path, and then using this parallel line, this line, extend it out, and maybe curve it up. And now I have some kind of weird chimney coming out of this house. So that's a reason why you would need to also take note of the contour lines of whatever form you're making. Because if you need to attach stuff to your volume, you need those lines to make sure that you're actually following the curvature, the topography of the form that you're making. Now, one more thing that I would like to add when it comes to like the dashed lines, let's say you have this. What if I added a dashed line over here? So essentially what this means is that there is a depression that goes down the top of this volume, and most probably it is also of circular shape. So with that, why don't we add that? So because if we assume that this is going to be a circular shape as well, let's place that on our volume. So I'm going to estimate now. This looks like 1/4 all around. So I'm going to slice that. And now I have my square in here. And now I can use that to add my ellipse. And then this portion goes down by a distance. So I just need to establish how far that is. So if I'm coming from here, this looks like 1/3 of this half. So I have 1/2 of the volume right here. And I'm going to go 1/3. So this is 1/3. Go down 1/3. So this is the level of that depression. And then what I can do is I can go down from the edges of this ellipse. And now I need to find the intersection. Okay, so given this distance over here, this distance right here is this. So I can go here, go down, circle that over here, and that's where the bottom of that depression is. Circle that. So what happens is I have the top part of this, and I now also have this bottom part, and we can only see a portion of that.